Anti-derivative Jill.
I'm Anti-Derivative Jill, and joining me on this epic journey is Tygerstripes.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hey.
Hello and welcome to A Year's Journey Through Middle-earth, Book 1.
Chapter 5, A Conspiracy Unmasked.
Yes, and they do a little bit of history about the Brandybuck family. They talk about their how huge the family is, how they all live together in tunnels.
There's much of the same information in the prologue about hobbits, but they made an observation that as bachelors, Sam and Frodo are sort of singular. Bilbo and Frodo. Bilbo and Frodo are very unique in that they did not marry and have a big family.
That helps explain why everybody thinks it's weird that Bilbo's been living alone, because that's not usual.
Right. Frodo's new house, I believe, is north of Buckleberry.
And as they're crossing the river, the text says, Sam was the only member of the party who had not been over the river before. He had a strange feeling as the slow gurgling stream slipped by. His old life lay in the mists. Dark adventure lay in front. When Sam, who had been looking back as if to take farewell of the Shire, said in a hoarse whisper, "Look back, Mr. Frodo. Do you see anything?" And this one has to be Gollum, because Sam points.
It's a black rider.
It's a dark shape crawling along the bank. The black riders crawl around?
I think they do. How corporeal they are.
It says, but as it looked, it seemed to move and sway this way and that, as if searching the ground. Then it crawled or went crouching back to the gloom, back into beyond the lamps. Okay, I guess it could be either. Black riders make more sense.
Well, I just realized I have my timeline, although I don't know who's responsible for making this timeline. It came from a pretty good source. I can try to see if there's anything about Gollum entering the Shire and following them, because that certainly would be a surprise to me. I really didn't think that he started. I know that the first time they clock him is outside of Moria, and he certainly may have been following them long before then.
I'm trying to find out when he starts stalking them, because I know he stalks them before they see him. So you're right. It's at this early in the game. It is probably just black riders. Searching the ground is something he loves to do. So they make it to the other side of the river, and they go to Frodo's new house in Crick Hollow. It says we had our supper early with Farmer Maggot, but we could do with another, so that speaks to hobbits love to eat.
I have a little Hobbit diet meme to share. Yes.
Oh, there it is.
They like to eat. Is it 5 times a day or 6 times a day? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 times a day. I think that's even more than the book says. I think the book says they like to eat 5 times a day.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes there's dinner and supper in this case. Mm-hmm. Maybe not every time.
Because
maybe they go to sleep first.
And afternoon tea are very common in the UK. A lot of people in the UK to this day, afternoon tea is what what we would call dinner or supper. It's their evening meal.
Yes, I learned that from live streaming, because I usually live stream during the time in which it is dinner time in the UK, and my guests would go have tea, and they're thinking, okay, you're drinking tea, but no, they're having dinner.
Yes, I think that might even be a specifically regional expression for people, or maybe more in the northwest of England. Maybe they all say it. The Hobbit diet.
They probably don't eat enormous meals like we do. They probably eat like smaller meals.
Have you ever seen a picture of the standard British breakfast? It's massive. It includes baked beans and sausages, amongst many other things, on the plate.
And that'll come into play when food becomes more and more scarce. They're going to miss those extra meals. But today they get both their dinner and supper. But first they have to have a bath. And they're admiring the work that Mary and Fatty did on Frodo's new house. Frodo says, "It's delightful. I hardly feel that I have moved at all," because everything was arranged just as much as it could be, like it was at Baggins. everybody thinks that they're going to have to take turns in the bathtub. And Mary said, we can't begin life at Crick Hollow with the coral over baths. In that room, there are 3 tubs and a copperful of boiling water. He thought ahead.
He's doing nothing but thinking ahead the whole time. He's my hero.
And so everyone's taking a bath and they're all singing competing songs. But the most boisterous of all of them is Pippin, who is just as bad as my 5-year-old. He is making a mess of water everywhere. And so he has to mop it up before he gets dinner.
As well he should.
So they have their dinner with the Frodo serving the mushrooms. Mary, like you said, Mary can just read Frodo like a book. He's tired of seeing Frodo looking so sad, and so he finally lets him in on the little secret conspiracy that they've been having this entire time. Frodo, you have been totally obvious this entire time. We knew ever since Bilbo left. And Pippin says, you must go, and therefore we must too. Mary and I are coming with you. Sam is an excellent fellow and would jump down a dragon's throat to save you, if he did not trip over his own feet. But you will need more than one companion in your dangerous adventure. And go ahead.
This sort of hurts too, because they really are all laughing at him. Here he thinks he's been so careful and they even know about the ring.
They do.
Which is pretty mind-bending.
It is. Gandalf said, keep it secret, keep it safe. And he's been so secretive. Yes. He's been so careful. He thought he was being careful. But Mary knew about the ring because he saw Bilbo use it one time when Bilbo was trying to hide from the Sackville Baggins. Mary hid behind a hedge and watched this happen. Watched Bilbo reappear and
disappear
he saw the
and reappear once the SBs had passed. Yeah. And then Mary even adds, after that, I kept my eyes open. In fact, I confess that I spied. But you must admit that it was very intriguing, and I was only in my teens. I must be the only one in the Shire besides you, Frodo, that has ever seen the old fellow's secret book. The book.
You have read his book? Good heavens above. And with this information, he's also gotten even more spying done, thanks to Sam Gamgee. He's also helped.
But it does sound like once Gandalf, put the stick to him and sort of threatened him at that point, Sam clammed up and stopped giving them any more information.
Frodo is shocked that his friends know about pretty much everything. He says, but it does not seem that I can trust anyone, said Frodo. And Tygerstripes, could you read the rest?
Sam looked at him unhappily. It all depends on what you want, put in Mary. You can trust us to stick to you through thick and thin, to the bitter end. And you can trust us to keep any secret of yours closer than you keep it yourself. But you cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo. Anyway, there it is. We know most of what Gandalf has told you. We know a good deal about the ring. We are horribly afraid, but we are coming with you or following you like hounds.
Yeah, and that's the loyalty of friendship that they're exhibiting, even though remarkable. It's a bit the only way you can be deceitful, but also, I don't know.
Well, at this point, they've all come clean to each other because Frodo's been keeping secrets too, and there's nothing There's nothing to make you want to find something out, like somebody keeping it a secret.
Yeah, especially if they're your best friend. Frodo says, I don't deny it. Looking at Sam, who is now grinning. I don't deny it, but I'll never believe you are sleeping again. Whether you snore or not, I shall kick you hard to make sure.
Yes. That's because Sam overheard him talking with Gildor, and Gildor advised Frodo to take friends that were willing to come with him.
Exactly. Yes. And I realized that's what you meant when we were reading that chapter. And I said, Sam fell asleep at his feet. And he said, is he?
Yes, did he?
Did he? Now Frodo is really, he's so happy. This is lifted a great weight off of him. And they say, good, that's settled. 3 cheers for Captain Frodo.
And company. And then they sing, of course. And there's yet another song.
More songs, lots of songs.
So many songs.
And so they decide to set out the next day. And Mary has prepared everything. They have 5 little ponies all ready to go.
He's a superhero.
He is.
Stores and tackle, except for a few extra clothes and the perishable food. Everything's packed.
It seems to have been a very efficient conspiracy, said Frodo. Frediger, Fatty Bulger.
Good old Fatty.
Yeah, he is horrified to find out that the plan is to go through the old forest. I guess he doesn't really get a say because he realizes he's not going along, but he does seem to be worried about it. But Mary disagrees that they've been in the forest before. Frodo's been in there before. They probably weren't in there for long, and when things got creepy, they probably just left. But in this case, they actually have to go through it. It is going to be different. But anyway, before we get to that, Frodo goes to bed and he has a dream. And I think when you're saying foreshadowing, this one has to be a foreshadow of some sort.
I clipped this too. You go ahead. It's remarkable.
Eventually, he fell into a vague dream in which he seemed to be looking out of a high window over a dark sea of tangled trees. Then he heard a noise in the distance. At first, he thought it was a great wind coming over the leaves of the forest. Then he knew that it was not leaves, but the sound of the sea far off, a sound he had never heard in his waking life, though it had often troubled his dreams. Suddenly, he found he was out in the open. There were no trees after all. He was on a dark heath, and there was a strange salt smell in the air. Looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower, standing alone on a high ridge. A great desire came over him to climb the tower and see the sea. He started to struggle up the ridge towards the tower, but suddenly a light came in the sky, and there was a noise of thunder.
Just glimpses of the entirety of Frodo's story in that passage.
What is the White Tower? What is this?
Again, in the prologue, it turns out there are, I believe, 3 towers on the far west end of the Shire. They were elf-made. From the tallest one, you can see the ocean. And every now and then a hobbit will go and climb it. Mostly they just talk about it, but they don't go and do anything about it. They know that they're there, and they know that you can see the ocean from them.
Okay, well, that's good enough for me. Thank you. I was wondering if it had some kind of deeper meaning.
It goes all the way to the end of Frodo's experience in the books.
That's all for now, and we're going to continue our quest. Stay tuned.
This is the end. I'm going now. I bid you all a very fond farewell.